give you guys a little background on myself, my name's Cole Evans. I'm a founder of a company called HEG. We're one of the largest geological services companies in Western Canada. I'm also the founder of another company called Catalina Discovery. And we're what I would call, touching on what Rick's talk was, I'd call myself a fundamental contrarian. Why this is a little different, I don't work for Crystal Lake. You're probably like, why am I up here? Crystal Lake's not paying me to be here at all. Our services company does the geological work here, and we've personally put 1.6 million cash into this project over the last 8 months. And I'd be putting more in if I could legally do so, but being the services company, I got set times where I can invest. But the point behind that is we're not the promo people. I've never done this sort of thing before. We got 11 clients operating in BC, and frankly, I would never do it for any of them. I will leave those out of there, but I do it for this project. Not so much Crystal Lake, but the project, because that's what's important to us, and that's where we see value. So, forward-looking statement. Touching a little on that, where are we? It's the Golden Triangle. It's the heart of it. It's the largest junior land package in Northwestern BC. Surrounding us, for the people that don't know where the Golden Triangle is, there's British Columbia on your bottom left. Surrounding, you got your Red Chris, which is producing mine as of 4 years ago, just up to the north. Eskay Creek, Bruce Jack, Galore Creek. It's a world-class deposit area. In touching on that, we worked on about 3,000 square kilometers within the Golden Triangle. 728 square kilometers is represented by Crystal Lake, and that's an important thing that I see aside from being a geologist, but as an investor, is the land package is like nobody else. What else do we see? There's a little zoomed in view. I haven't even seen this presentation before, to be frank, so I'm just going to work you guys through it here and touch on what I think is important, as opposed to maybe whoever made the presentation, what they think is important. So yeah, that's getting a little on the past producers here. 3.3 million ounces at Eskay. The importance of the Golden Triangle, of course, is the grade. One of the big problems there is infrastructure and cost, right? Which is something that, as a services company, we're always trying to work on for our clients. How can we drive down cost? How can we take this world-class district, what I truly feel as being one of the most important geologically pieces of ground in the free world, that's largely undeveloped. I mean, there's resources in the Golden Triangle that, we talk about Nevada would have been mined 50 years ago. Why does it sit there? It's because infrastructure is a big problem there. But like with the oil sands, and like what Rick was talking about with there, what was the changing factor? It was the money starting to roll in with infrastructure, right? What have we seen within the last 18 months? Newcrest came in for $807 million, buying out 70% of Red Chris. Just to the north of us, Newmont just bought out Nova Gold's 50% position at Galore for $275 million. I'll tell you something that is not public, not to do with Crystal Lake, but just me being a guy in a helicopter flying around the bush all the time. We spent 137 days on the ground in the field here this year. They've actually restarted the Galore Creek project, which is well west of where we are here. Of course, a big problem with that is it's 110 kilometers away from the road when they started building it. What a lot of people don't realize is they've actually completed the first 30 kilometers of the road. And since Newmont's purchase at $275 million, there was 5 drills turning there this year. And road construction's restarted, maintenance, all these things. The money's flowing in. Just to the south, on the south end of this project, is Manulife Financial. And when I give dollar amounts, this is a mix of Canadian and US, so hopefully I'm on the right level. Here's a really important piece. On the southern end of this project, Manulife Financial and Axiom Infrastructure just bought out the, we call it the AltaGas, was the original company, hydroelectric facilities. It's 303 megawatts of power that Manulife Financial and Axiom Infrastructure just purchased for 2 billion Canadian this year. So as you can see, it's well over $3 billion is flooded into the area just within the last 18 months. We're talking big bucks, big deposits. I couldn't possibly tell you all the things geologically about this project. If you want to dive into that, you can come see us. We're around until this afternoon. But the premise, there's 4 main targets. We call it the Canadian Tire Project. And for those of you who don't know what Canadian Tire is, what I'd call like a higher quality Walmart, minus the groceries. And why do we call it that? Because with that scale, with that land package scale, that's just, you don't get unless you have an operating mine. You know, Pretium has a comparable package, Teck has a comparable package, these sorts of companies. In that ARC environment, you have every deposit type. We have your high-grade gold systems. We have the high-grade silver zinc systems. We just made a brand new discovery this year of high-grade nickel cobalt. You know, these things no human had ever known. We didn't even know. When we first got involved in this with Crystal Lake 10 months ago, Dylan, my business partner in the back, the guy you'll see me mobbing around this conference with, we invested $200,000 to do a historic data amalgamation because it had never been done in the area before, and that was a big thing that we do with other clients. Crystal Lake didn't have the money to pay for it at the time. We just paid for it ourselves because I like geology and it's cool, right? And then we liked what we saw, so then we put another $1 million into the project and kind of surged that next round of investment. And then we put another $620,000 in, and we're planning on putting at least another $500,000 in. But unfortunately, where we sit with the data, we can't touch it right now for it to be legal. But so getting on with that, and then of course Burgundy Ridge. I can't believe I forgot about that. Your copper gold porphyry system. So we call it Canadian Tire because no matter what you like, the project is so big, it has, and when I say targets, these are bona fide targets. Let our data speak for itself of what we consider bona fide versus other targets. First Nations, that's another really big problem in northwestern BC. So sitting in this picture, this is up at Burgundy Ridge. This was from the first drill hole ever drilled there. Like I said, we're drilling things that nobody's ever touched. We just put out the press release of our first hole. It was a 147-meter hole that collapsed on us, unfortunately. I've never been touched. And it hit 91 meters of 0.38 copper, 0.3 gold, and 4.2 grams silver. Put that into perspective, that's higher grade than the resource at Red Chris. That's about equivalent grade at KSM. And with another intercept that we got 2.3 kilometers along the strike, we hit true potassic alteration. We just nicked it. It was a short intercept. So again, no one had ever drilled this before. This was on our third hole. We hit 56 meters, or 57 meters, of 0.45 copper, 0.33 gold, and 3 or 4 grams silver, somewhere around there. So our grade is completely on target with the world-class projects that surround us. It's just no one's ever drilled it, no one's ever touched it. And touching on that First Nation issue, that's such a big thing in British Columbia. This is the Tahltan in the area of northwestern BC. The Tahltan are the First Nations that control it more or less. They also happen to be our buddies because going back to the days when Dylan and I were soil samplers, we actually used to live on a reserve in a shed where we would shake the mice out of our cruiser vests until a fox moved in underneath the floor and he kept the mice away for us. So that's a true story. I'll show you pictures if you don't believe me. But we started with nothing. And that's the president of the Tahltan central government. That's his dad. This is our buddy Al McPherson. He's the main driller. You see he's even wearing, like, they wear our stuff. The First Nations there love this project because we give them work in purpose. And I could go on and on about that, but I don't know if I got the time to. This was the first project we ever did up there. That's me not knowing what I'm doing, getting myself into here. This was in October of last year. We were the only people, I think, to ever do a drill program at 6,000 feet in the Golden Triangle in October on 3 days' notice. It was probably one of the stupidest things we've ever done, but it worked, which was kind of crazy. And to be frank, I'd love to call myself a great geologist. Oh, there's a screen right there I can look at. I'd love to call myself a great geologist and thinking that, okay, on that 100-meter hole, this was, again, something that had never been drilled before. We hit 56 meters of, I can't remember the exact grades, but it was about on par with, these world-class deposits that surround us. And I'd love to say it was on great targeting. We had started working for the company 3 days before this photo was taken. And as you can see, it was winter time and the ground is completely covered in snow. We didn't target at all. We just simply set up where this big old RC rig could sit on a flat ground without drilling a pad. And we just drilled wherever we could. And we managed to hit ore grade mineralization over more than 65% of the hole. So that's a little more on that there. We'll talk about some of the, I've talked about that enough. Lots of cool core photos. This is a cool one. This is actually some photos. We don't usually put this out, but on some assays that haven't been released yet. I always talk with investors, that's solid chalcopyrite. We could see our potassic alterations. Like I said, the technical, I could go on for weeks, but I would never be able to sum it up. The point being, you have all the things for these systems that surround us. and we've just started drilling it and getting those results. I'm going to touch a little bit on the high grade because on our high grade gold stuff, yeah, sitting down in here. So this is a really important image because we got a lot of criticism about this actually when it was first put out, and I think there's a lot of misinterpretation on that. There's a small historic resource there from the 1980s, 200,000 ounces gold, 291,000 ounces silver, 6.6 million pounds of copper, about 4.5 grams average grade. Overall, nothing special. It's uneconomic in itself, but what we first saw in that when we put that data into 3D was the problem with and there's so many factors that go into 1980s exploration versus now, but one of the big problems there is the system was just treated as a small skarn, right? About 300 meters, and they assayed, less than 20% of the core, all these things. When in fact the highest grade's not in the skarn, it's not in the massive sulfide where it would obviously be. And we showed that. We drilled a hole this year where we got 44 meters of 4 grams gold, 4 grams silver, 0.29 copper, with a high grade zone, 15 grams gold over 8 meters. Frankly, I believe some of the best gold results. And full disclosure, I'm a big fan of the Great Bears, the West Havens, things like that. But I truly believe one of the best gold intercepts in the province this year. And why is that? Because beyond the press release, something really important we understood and later found was the highest grade. There was 76 grams over a meter. High grade in anyone's books, I would consider, unless you're at Pretium. But the importance with that, the massive sulfide, where it was targeted, where you got this original 200,000 ounces, which frankly, in my opinion, there's probably a lot more there once you actually do the resource properly. It's not in the scar. It's the point being, it's all these high, and we see from the 1980s, 185 grams, 64 grams, 43 grams, all these high grade narrow vein intercepts that the geophysics does not pick up on. That's where your highest grades are. That's where the real gold is. And then hopefully it's going to click to the. There's a little bit of VG. We were finding visible gold just in core that was sitting there for 35 years, and no one had touched. It was insanity. That's our chief geoscientist, a gentleman named John Ryan. He was we just got him 6 months ago. He was a senior project geologist for Teck Resources for the last 10 years, as well as Mars Napoli, who's now the president CEO. He was with Vale for 30 plus years. This is our dispersion. So we drilled 2 holes that unfortunately we don't have the assays back yet, but we had this boulder dispersion train, and I'll let you look at the grades. This is the bigger picture. There's your small resource. This is the bigger picture, what's driving it. It's all these faults, your high-grade vein-hosted mineralization. We got 2 holes sitting right up in here that are public on there that have the exact same IP features. By the way, this has never been touched. The exact same IP features, the same gold-silver surface geochemistry, same high strain fabrics. It's called arseno because there's a lot of arsenic there, which of course, as we know, is great for gold systems. And like I said, the story goes on. I'm crazy, but there's a fine line between being crazy and being stupid, and I try and hug that, and that's I think this project sums that up. So I'm out of time there, but thank you.